Good afternoon, everyone. You feel it, don't you? Take breath for a second. Um, that electricity running through your choices lately, the way conversations stop when you walk in, how people's eyes track you differently than they did 6 months ago. The confusion on faces that thought they had you figured out, now scrambling to recalibrate their entire assessment because you've become someone they didn't predict. Their shock isn't your responsibility, but it is feedback. Um, Destiny doesn't knock politely and wait for permission. It kicks doors open, floods rooms, rewrites entire floor plans without asking if you're ready for renovation. And right now, your life is mid demolition. What looked like stable structure 6 months ago is rubble. What seemed permanent is dust. What everyone assumed was your ceiling just became your foundation. And people are losing their minds watching it happen. They're shocked because you're breaking script, deviating from the role they assigned you in their mental theater. See, humans are predictability addicts. We relax when people behave consistently, even if that consistency is consistently small. It allows us to stop paying attention, categorize someone, file them under figured out, and move on. Um, but you just jumped categories, smashed the filing cabinet, rendered their entire organizational system obsolete. Some are shocked and pressed, genuinely celebrating your expansion because it gives them permission to dream bigger themselves. Your audacity is contagious in the best way, proving that ceilings are illusions, that reinvention is possible, that the person you were last year doesn't have to be the person you are today. Others are shocked, threatened. Your growth highlights their stagnation. Your courage exposes their fear. Your refusal to stay small makes their own smallness harder to justify. So they'll dress their discomfort as concern, their jealousy as skepticism, their resentment as just being realistic. Um, Watch who celebrates versus who cautions. That's your sorting mechanism for genuine supporters versus energy vampires. What changed? What internal earthquake preceded this external transformation everyone's reacting to? Because destiny isn't random, it's responsive. The universe doesn't just hand people massive life shifts arbitrarily. It waits for internal readiness, that moment when someone's soul finally screams loud enough to drown out every voice that's been telling them to stay safe, stay small, stay known. Um, you hit that moment, maybe recently, maybe building for years before finally reaching critical mass, but somewhere, somehow, you stopped asking permission and started claiming territory. Stopped waiting to feel ready and started acting despite readiness. Stopped explaining yourself to people who were never going to understand anyway. That shift, internal authority replacing external validation, that's what destiny recognizes and amplifies. Here's what's probably happening in your external reality right now, creating all this shock, is less than #0. 5 hash is greater than um, career eruption. You might be leaving jobs people thought were your end game, starting businesses in fields you have no experience in, getting offers that seem disproportionate to your resume, succeeding in ways that don't follow conventional timelines or pathways. And every success makes naysayers more uncomfortable because it proves their realistic advice was actually just their limitations projected onto you. Relationship upheaval, Connections people assumed were permanent might be dissolving. Partnerships everyone expected you to maintain indefinitely just ending. Not through drama necessarily, but through your unwillingness to continue accepting what no longer serves you. Or alternatively, new relationships forming that surprise everyone because this person isn't your type or doesn't fit the pattern of previous choices. You're choosing with different criteria now. Values over aesthetics, substance over familiarity, growth over comfort. Either direction, people are confused because you're not following their predictions. Physical transformation, maybe your body's changing in ways that reflect internal shifts. Weight loss or gain that actually serves you. Style evolution that expresses who you're becoming rather than who you were. Energy that reads visibly different. People comment you seem lighter or more present without knowing why. Geographical movement. Destiny often requires relocation. You might be preparing moves people think are impractical, leaving cities you've been rooted in, choosing locations based on calling rather than logic, and everyone's giving opinions you didn't request about decisions they won't have to live with. Creative emergence. Talents dormant for years, suddenly demanding expression. Projects you've been going to do someday actually happening. Voice you've been suppressing finally speaking. And the quality surprising everyone, yourself included, because you didn't know you had this in you. Except you did. It was always there. Just waiting for permission, you finally gave yourself. Which of these resonates most with current reality? Now, let's address this is your destiny directly, because destiny gets romanticized into meaning one predestined path you either find or miss. That's not how it works. Destiny is more like magnetic north, a direction your soul naturally orients toward when you remove all the interference. You have free will, can ignore magnetic north forever, can build entire life facing south if you want. Many people do. They're not wrong or failed, they're just living someone else's destiny, usually shaped by parents, culture, fear, convenience. But when someone stops ignoring their internal compass and starts actually following it, when they align with magnetic north despite everyone insisting south is safer, that alignment creates momentum nothing can stop. Doors open, resources appear, people materialize who are exactly what you need, exactly when you need them. Obstacles that seemed immovable just move. Not through magical thinking, but through you finally being in the right energetic frequency to perceive and access what was available all along. That's what people are witnessing, you in alignment. And alignment looks like magic to people operating from misalignment. They don't see the internal work you did to get here, the ego deaths, the comfortable identities you shed, the security you released, the voices you stopped listening to. They just see the results and call it luck, privilege, timing, anything except what it actually is. Courage compounding over time. Here's what you need to understand about shock as social currency. It's temporary. People adapt. Today's scandal becomes tomorrow's normal. What seems impossible to them now will seem inevitable in hindsight. So don't perform for their shock. Don't amplify choices to maximize reaction. Don't shrink to minimize discomfort. Just keep moving at whatever pace feels authentic, letting their shock be their experience to process. Because here's the thing, you're not actually shocking everyone. You're shocking people who weren't paying attention. Anyone who was actually seeing you clearly saw this coming, recognized the dissatisfaction brewing, noticed the restlessness building, understood that your current containers were getting too small for who you were becoming. Real friends, real supporters, people who actually know you, they're not shocked, they're relieved. Finally, you're doing what they've been watching you avoid. So if someone's expressing shock, ask yourself, were they paying attention or were they projecting? Were they seeing you or their idea of you? Is less than has hone. Zero hash is greater than. Most people relating to idea of you explains why your evolution feels like betrayal to them. Let's talk about what happens next, because destiny revelations are just beginnings, not destinations. You're experiencing activation phase where dormant potential suddenly goes live. But activation without integration is just chaos. What comes after shock is work. Sustained, unglamorous, repetitive work of building structure around this new life, of developing skills to match the opportunities appearing, of creating systems that support expansion instead of just riding momentum until it crashes. People love activation phase, Instagram-worthy transformations, before and after narratives, dramatic reveals, but they lose interest during integration phase because it's boring from outside, even though it's where real power gets consolidated. Don't mistake activation for completion. You're not done just because you shocked people. You're just getting started. What daily practices are you implementing to sustain this momentum? Also crucial, boundaries will need upgrading. Your old boundaries were designed for your old life. They're inadequate for current reality. People who had unlimited access before might need restrictions now. Time previously available for everyone might need protecting. Energy you used to spend explaining yourself needs redirecting toward building. And boundary upgrades shock people too. They'll interpret protection as rejection. They'll call standards changed like it's accusation. They'll miss when you were more available, which really means when you were more depleted. Let them miss it. You don't exist to remain convenient. Something else about destiny and shock. Sometimes what shocks people isn't magnitude of change, but direction. You're not necessarily doing bigger things than before. You're doing different things. Things that don't compute with their understanding of your identity. The quiet person speaking up. The people pleaser saying no. The logical one following intuition. The practical one taking risks. The private one going public. The public one choosing privacy. Any deviation from established pattern reads as shocking, even when the pattern was never actually you, just longest running performance. And ending performances always disturbs audiences who were enjoying the show. Pay attention to who's disturbed versus who's curious. Disturbed people want you back in character. Curious people want to understand your evolution. One group serves your past, other serves your future. Choose accordingly. Here's the spiritual component people avoid discussing. Destiny fulfillment requires sacrifice, not suffering sacrifice, conscious releasing of what no longer fits to make room for what does. You're probably grieving things even while celebrating growth, relationships that couldn't adapt, identities you've outgrown, dreams that were actually someone else's dreams for you. Comfort of known territory exchanged for uncertainty of new. That grief is valid. You can mourn what you're leaving while still knowing leaving is correct. Both truths coexist. And people's shock might be compounding your grief because their reactions remind you how much is changing, how many bridges you're crossing that don't have return routes. But return isn't the goal. Return is regression disguised as safety. Forward is the only direction that serves you now, regardless of who that leaves behind. What are you grieving that you haven't admitted yet? Final piece. You're not shocking everyone right now because you're special or chosen or superior. You're shocking them because you're finally being authentic, and authenticity is radical in culture that rewards performance. Most people spend entire lives in costumes. When someone strips down to actual self, it's jarring, confrontational. It forces everyone else to question their own costumes. Your destiny isn't about being extraordinary. It's about being genuinely you in a world that profits from your inauthenticity. That's revolutionary enough. So keep shocking them, not intentionally, just as byproduct of living aligned with truth instead of expectations. Keep choosing growth over comfort. Keep honoring what's emerging instead of protecting what's dying. Keep trusting internal compass even when every external voice screams you're going wrong direction. Because here's what they're not telling you. Their shock will fade, but your regret at shrinking would be permanent. Choose the temporary discomfort of their adjustment over the permanent pain of your own suppression. Drop below. What's the most shocking change you've made recently? How did people react? Destiny doesn't wait for approval. It just unfolds. You're unfolding beautifully. Keep going.